Eskandari from Rebellion Systems.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this talk. So I'm going to talk about the mad scientist shit that matters. And this is more of the story that I went through in the last few months. So just a bit about myself. I'm Shayan Eskandari. I'm a security researcher, a hacker, educator, and human-centered technologist. I did my PhD on blockchain's unforeseen consequences, which is like front-running, Oracle failures, and the dark side of permissionless. In the last decade, I've been doing like smart contract security. I built enterprise staking infrastructure for Ethereum. And also, for the context of this talk, I've co-founded Iranian Chain, which was like a DAO using crypto to route through geopolitical exclusion. And also, I've been teaching Farsi speakers and Iranians about crypto stack and technology since 2015 through something called Coin Iran Academy and also Shir Khat podcast. But my latest obsession is MoaV, mother of all VPNs. So just to give you the context, internet shutdowns is not a new thing. It's not a one-off thing. So Iran has been going dark for the last 15 years or even 20 years. And there have been many incidents. Every time they learn what connections were leaked, and they basically make it harder, make it bigger, and make it more complete. And they learn from every shutdown and every internet filtering. And this year has been one of the worst on the record. Basically, most of 2026, Iran has been offline. It started with January 8 and 9, which was the Iran street protests against the government. And they shut down everything this time. This time was like SMS, phones, even intranet that usually works. They were all cut down. And during those 2 days, around 30,000 to 70,000 people were killed in the streets. And then internet came back for a bit, and then the war began, and internet went blackout. There was 88 days of full internet shutdown, which later in late May, which 3 weeks ago, internet came back in a really weird state. And what I mean a weird state is, so 2 weeks ago, Azerbaijan ended up being the #3 country for the ChatGPT usage, which they have like 10 million people population, so that's not really possible. And we noticed that Iran's traffic is being routed through Azerbaijan for some reason. And this is, before we say this is like Iran's problem, it's not. We're seeing that to becoming a default, global default. We've seen in Nepal, after the social media ban, there was like 3,000% VPN demand, VPN demand. In Uganda, in the United Kingdom, we're seeing that with the age verification. And Iran, after it restored, there was 1,000% VPN demand, extra VPN demand. And all these peaks are basically a population trying to flee to free internet. So it's almost a digital immigration happening. And we're seeing like also governments are trying not to ban VPNs, but also DDoS VPN infrastructures with Russia. And we've seen conversations in the US about banning VPNs. So basically this is a different flag, but the same playbook. It's control the network, you can control the people. And this is not going away. Like as you've seen the other talks in the today and yesterday, VPN is becoming one of the main topics. And I want to use the Cory Doctorow entitification framework to just talk about some of the Web3 aspects. So for a refresher to be on the same page, basically he talks about, like, let's say, social media and Facebook, that Facebook started saying, MySpace is spying on you, come join me and be Facebook users. So you're good to users, you capture the users, you lock them in, and you start to abuse the users for your business customers, show them ads, and then you end up abusing the business customers to extract more value from them for the shareholders, and then the platform starts to rot. It becomes a giant pile of shit. And the way he talks about it is like when they start talking about metaverse, that's where this happened. We're seeing a similar thing happening with internet infrastructure, but for this crowd, basically I want to talk about like Web3. So in Web3, I feel like we forgot the promise. We're talking about privacy, but like basically the cypherpunks started with writing code. They were like, we want communication privacy. We want to define our privacy with cryptography, with remailers, signatures, electronic money. And basically, we want to communicate through borders without being under surveillance. And now 30 years later, basically we captured all the builders through this promise of the communication privacy. But then we captured these users, builders, and then VCs kind of took over and they started to optimize for what could be priced and sold. And the thing is, basically, financial privacy can have a business model and can be priced and sold. But communication privacy, for someone, let's say in Tehran, doesn't have a business model. And we couldn't forgot about that. Now we have like privacy for enterprise, which I don't know exactly what that means. And but the people that need it, they still can't access it. And this is not cypherpunk anymore, in my opinion. So just to show what the gap is, so basically we start to build for the top of the stack. We built for app layer, for protocol layer, for transport, which are all good. Like we build wallets, dApps, L2s, IPFS, we build like the ENS, they're all good, I'm not gonna lie. But we forgot the bottom side. So we forgot how, if those bottom sides get cut down, nothing matters on top. And it also just vanishes. And this is not necessarily a failure of imagination of like the technical failure. This is a failure of imagination of who the adversary is and what extent they could go. And this is kind of like my personal story here. So I'm Iranian diaspora. I spent like over a decade teaching Farsi speakers about crypto stack, tech stack, cryptography. And when these blackouts happened, it was all worthless. No one could use anything on Web3. And I couldn't even reach my own family. It's not like my messages were blocked. It was not being delivered. And I ended up, like, after the initial shock that was gone, I started basically rage coding. I felt helpless. I was like, I needed to do something. And I started rage coding, and it wasn't necessarily for any financial future. It was like for a better now, for getting someone through. And to be honest, I didn't have any hope that it's going to work. It was just for my own sanity. And then I put it out there, tweeted about this, and I saw people actually getting through. People are getting to internet through this software that I was building. And around late February, when the full internet shutdown happened, everything went silent. And I just broke. I failed. I felt like I was defeated. Basically, I closed my laptop, walked for a few days, came back, looked at some of the charts on those servers, because I was already donating to the anti-surveillance, anti-censorship protocols. And I realized people from Myanmar are connecting, people from Russia, China, even UK are going through this traffic. But I made this application initially for Iranian users, but there were none of them. So I started continuing the work. I fixed bugs, I added more protocols. I read so many Chinese and Russian websites and Telegram messages to like understand how they get through these, and kept adding these. And later in May, when connection came back, it started working again. I saw Iran in the charts again, and it made me so happy. So I continued on this. And just to say what this is, basically it's the idea of MoaV, or mother of all VPNs, is not really elegance, it's redundancy. So you can use like basically one command to run all possible protocols that I could find. So I wasn't going for the best VPN protocol. I was going for all of them, any protocol that is out there. So you run one command, it sets up everything for you. And in security, a lot of times we say the system is secure till there's one security hole and hacker can get in. I'm kind of looking at the other way around. The sensor has to block all the protocols, but you only need one to get through. So this is like kind of that way. So any stranger can become like a VPN provider for the whole population, for the whole neighborhood, for the whole household. And MoaV, like mother of all VPN, started as a joke, but then it became the thesis of this application. And it only needs like a really small VPS or Raspberry Pi. You can set it up. And the specific problem I was trying to solve then, it's really hard to explain for people outside Iran. So in an internet shutdown, it's not like everything's unplugged. People inside start running scanners for the whole internet. It's similar to like you looking at the stars to find life. They were like trying to ping some server that is alive for them. And sometimes they could. Sometimes, like one example was the Azure cloud in North Africa. Some IP range in there was pinging. And then we have two really brutal problems. One, can we get an IP address in that range, which is a technical problem for outside Iran. It's possible through brute force, however means. The other problem is like when you get an IP address, you're basically beating the clock. There is a time that that IP address would be blocked. And you want to get traffic through as soon as possible. And basically this one command, you already have configurations for your family, friends, and also contributing to Tor, Snowflake, Conduit, and Siphon, all these to get traffic through. And then you have a day that you come and there's no traffic. You notice that like that server has been, the IP has been blocked. But for a few days, you gave internet to people that needed it. And just to show like how it works, basically there is like one box every route out. I just realized I modified these slides, but this is like older version. But so the blue box there, this box is MoaV. So basically, if you have like inside Iran, China, Russia, most people on their phone have some kind of VPN apps. And there are some collection here. So whatever you have in MoaV, there is something for you to use. At the same time, we're contributing to Siphon and Tor through Snowflake. That means you become part of the infrastructure for anti-censorship internet. And these are the parts I really love, that it becomes part of the infrastructure. And just to show it's not just slideware, so when you run the command, you get this terminal UI that helps you set up everything. And you have an admin dashboard that gives you like some information about what is happening on that server. And you have like a graphonometrics really detailed in like which countries, what protocols are working, so you have better sense of who's using your servers and how this traffic is going through. And that's where I was seeing like no Iran and China and Myanmar, and I realized people are actually using this. And there is an arm race here. So in a lot of these places, there is deep packet inspection that start to like understand the packets and the traffic, and it starts blocking the obvious traffics, like OpenVPN, WireGuard, and these kind of things that are obvious gets blocked really fast and one by one. But we see that this creative resilience that routes around it. So one of the things is SNI spoofing, which is like a lot of these infrastructure need, let's say, the smart TVs. They want smart TVs to be updated, but no one can have access to internet. So they left like update.samsung.com open. You change the traffic to look like those updates, but goes through MoaV server, and like you can have access to internet. Goose Relay is one of the ones that I really like. Google was blocked, but Google infrastructure was open, some of the parts. So they use like script.google.com to be able to route traffic through Google infrastructure. And also, Ballet VPN is one of the ones I really love. Ballet is one of the state-approved chat apps. It's fully backdoored. But people start using the WebRTC video call media there to get traffic through. And it's similar to Protozoa, which is an academic paper that was used in China and Russia. And also DNS tunnels. DNS is the last thing that the governments can kill. And you can still use that to move around text. And one of the things about this is like these were mostly built by people inside these internet shutdowns. So I want to put this out there and talk about what's actually out there and what is not. And I want to be really honest here, because if I oversell any of these, people would get hurt. Like they actually trust that technology. Another example is a GitHub over channel that like GitHub was also filtered. GitHub CI was open, so people did basically TCP over Git, which means they would like commit a Git with a URL, their GitHub action would download the file, and they could like clone and pull the server. That was like another interesting way of doing this. The feed is something that saved a lot of lives, that used Telegram or news over DNS, so you could get some news about which regions of the city you have to evacuate and some others. Netagram I'll mention in a minute. A few call to actions here is more, so there is like Starlink neighborhood sharing, which there's a NASNet and some other similar projects that you could share your Starlink connection to your neighborhood or to your friends that you want. But there is a high risk of being arrested if it gets detected. We know that there is like power line networking possible. Why don't we have similar networks to share internet to the building without that detection, without using the other infrastructure? This is more part of like pirating the infrastructure that exists. We've seen like dial-up revival in like Egypt 2011, that they use dial-ups to be able to like create new connections. And offline payments also have a whole slide about this. And one thing to know is, so the tools that worked were actually built by people living inside these blackouts. And there are research around this which they call this grassroots infrastructuring survival work, which we need to look into more in this space. And so Netagram is another project I rage coded in the same period. So the only time in that period that someone could connect was calling from inside landline to outside, actual landline calls. And I was still working on this VPN, and I wanted them to test. So I was like, maybe there is a way to use phone to move data. And that's where I built Netagram. Neda in Farsi means voice. And basically the idea is like you paste your configuration, like any data you want here, it turns it into voice, and then it uses the same technology as NASA uses for Voyager from Interstellar to communicate over the phone, because phone is noisy, you need to be able to convert that. It's really slow. Also, they need internet to load this first time. It works fully offline. It even has like NPM package you can use. And it might take around 6 minutes to 1 kilobyte, but still, like, it works. This is another, like, this is where a friend of mine called this is math scientist shit, and that's where I got this word from. And these are something that I want to also talk about in this Web3 conference, more offline payments. So a signed transaction is just data, right? Like, you should be able to like use your wallet, sign a transaction, send it with a carrier pigeon, Netagram, like Bluetooth, whatever, and then somewhere else that is online, you should be able to broadcast it. And it's kind of embarrassing that we don't have it right now. Like with Bitcoin, there's partially signed Bitcoin transaction that it kind of is, it works. We have Cashew, which is like the closest to what I have in mind. It's Bitcoin only, and the mint needs to be online. But for EVM wallets, like MetaMask, you can't even build an offline transaction. If you're offline, you cannot even build a transaction, because it wants to get nonce, gas estimate. There are all these technical possibility there, but we don't have it. And even if let's say if you do this, you cannot export that data to give it to your friends, through Netagram, to other ways to broadcast it. And it's really embarrassing, in my opinion. And that ends stable coins even not feasible to do offline. I know there is like some trust anchors, like double spending, there are these issues, but the small value payments can work today and they can save lives in these regions. It's not about just wartime or internet shutdowns. We've seen in like Spain and Portugal, there was like days-long power outages. Like in those, your wallets do not work, even if you have a way to communicate, because you don't have internet on those devices. And basically my ask here is like, if you're working on a wallet, not necessarily a new wallet, I don't want a new wallet for this. I want MetaMask, Rabi, all these, to have an option to export your signed transaction to use in other means. And if you can, using ZK, escrows, state channels, make it possible today to do $100, like maximum $100 of like offline transactions. Because a $5 transaction can buy food in these regions, but at these points, banks are out, internet is out, there is no way to do value transfer. And another one is like, we have pop-up cities, we run pop-up cities, why not pop-up mesh? So why do we use Discord in these when we have Delta Chat, Metrics, Jitsi, we have BChat, we have all these, so we can have a network like this that has its own payment network and everything. Payment network for this kind of situation doesn't need to go through the network, through the internet. And there are some relays. Some interesting thing, so did you know there is like 2 mesh networks already here and you're not even aware of? One is BChat, which it's only me and Florian from Freedom Browser, that every day we say yo. And also yesterday I have a Meshtastic node with me which uses LoRa technology, and yesterday I was able to connect to Václav from Logos, and I went to the office, and they're trying to do really interesting ways of using this mesh. And that's one of the parts I came to this space, these experimentations, this crazy shit that we want to build. So let's, for the next pop-up city, have our own mesh, have our own chat, and after we're done, it all evaporates and we don't need anything else. And that makes people to build better tools, be more accessible, have these apps if the internet goes down, so be able to use them. And back to the activist morale, is like, you don't have to win the VPN and internet censorship. You just have to make it expensive for the censor for the government to censor you. And we've seen this before, like two decades ago, they only started to block DNS queries. And people start building the DNS over HTTPS, DNS tunnels. Then it was like deep packet inspection fingerprinting that you cannot go to like facebook.com. People started using proxies and SNI spoofing. And now we have like IP blocks, which we use Cloudflare and CloudFront to like bypass those. For the total blackouts, if we create those mesh networks, we don't need a global wide internet. We just need these local mesh that works and they can just communicate and live their lives. This would really save lives, and we just need to keep raising the price on censorship. And one thing I learned about this last few months is the community is the infrastructure, is not the side effect. And while I was making Netagram, I was way beyond my knowledge on like signal processing. Someone showed me a few papers about Voyager, how they use this, and that actually made Netagram possible. There was like developers that are outside there. There was actually someone, a NIM developer, that helped me with MoaV, like making it more secure. I don't even know who that person is, but they helped me. There are activists, like there are so many people inside Iran and China that helped me test these in the situations that I could not test. And also translators. This whole community is the infrastructure. And just, we should be aware that these tools would die the moment the people maintaining them burn out. In March, I almost did. So take care of each other in these situations. And just to say where we're taking MoaV, like I'm taking MoaV in that sense, is, so the idea was like it helps everyone to get access to internet for their VPNs. But then I realized, well, we have all these protocols. We can have a MoaV client to use all these protocols and use the ones that actually get through. So if you're in a region that you want to test it, or if you just want to test it, let me know. I can send you VPN configs from these test servers. It's easy for you to also run it, but I can also provide that. Another thing I want to do is try tougher transport layers, more VPNs. If you know any exotic VPNs you want to add, put the GitHub issues, me and Claude get on it. I want to implement NIM and Sentinel, and recently I was talking like Gnosis VPN as a relayer. The only thing is like I don't want to add complexity. I want to keep the server running to any non-techie can run those servers, so any non-tech person with a Linux or Raspberry Pi could become VPN infrastructure. I just want to abstract away the key management and everything from that. Yeah, so, and the other thing is like I want to be able to create a cluster. There's someone actually helping me from Web3 privacy talk that we talked to have a secure way of running clusters of these servers so a lot of people can request configurations on Telegram. That's another thing that we want to build next. And basically a call to action on this room is just to know that the tool that breaks in the crisis that it was built for is worse than no tool, because someone trusts it for it to work. And build for the people that gets cut off. So go, if you have a small VPS or Raspberry Pi, deploy MoaV today. That's only what it takes, this command. And it runs Conduit, Snowflake. You already become part of the infrastructure. And before you go to sleep, someone's behind these walls is breathing through your bandwidth. And build for the harder problems. Like just don't build another yet DeFi project. Just build the plumbing for the next internet shutdown. Do work on offline payments. We need those. Work on mesh, exotic routing, those hardware layer that is out of our control. And build it now, because the next crisis is inevitable. It's going to happen. And also fund the gap. So if you have like any treasuries, any grants, bounties, fund them toward these projects. Like Mahsanet is one of the big ones that is helping a lot of people. Direct to Cell is trying to get satellites, and Starlink to help with a lot of people getting communication. MoaV, and another thing, if you have access to some funds for like next hackathon prize, just put one crazy idea there and say like, create a mesh, create an offline transaction that goes through this other random protocol. Make it like exciting for a lot of people to be able to like bring out their mad scientists out. And basically, I'm going to take it if you want to take a picture. Yeah. So basically what I'm asking is the cypherpunks end their manifesto by cypherpunks write code. They valued privacy, they wrote code that became right now Tor, became Signal, became a lot of things that we use. We need to continue that because we inherited that. And basically what I'm asking is like become the infrastructure, run MoaV, and yeah, thank you for being here. I'm almost out of time. Thank you. Any questions? Or? Okay, thank you.